Hi, everybody. We are back with our daily broadcast on Russian sanctions. We try to make sense of the latest news on sanctions every day and help you in your compliance efforts with this with this really, waterfall of new sanctions almost every day. With our daily Sorry about that. So, my name is Saskia Rietbroek, and I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Certified Sanction Specialists, or ACSS. Please visit our website at sanctionsassociation.org. We also have a page for our members that lists all the links and the docs, the legal docs and executive orders and council decisions, etc., on our website at sanctionsassociation.org. And it is accessible to ACSS members. So, what has happened since, let's say, last night? Yesterday, at the end of the day, the European Union published the decisions and the regulations of the new EU sanctions package, the fourth package. And I mentioned this yesterday in the broadcast, but now we actually have the legal document. So it was over 60 pages in total. It definitely kept me awake last night when I was reading through it. And some of these sanctions are list-based, so we have a new, additional names on the list. Other are broader and actually cover any person or company in Russia. So, what is included in these sanctions? Let me quickly go over it to give you the highlights. So, Decision 2022-430 prohibits all transactions with certain state-owned enterprises. So this is a list-based sanction, right? Because it's tied to particular names on a particular list. And there's this list of companies that you can no longer do business with, like Rosneft, a large Russian oil company, Gazprom, Transneft. But careful, because these prohibitions do not apply to transactions related to, you guess, coal, oil, gas, and other fossil fuels. So that was one sanction. Another sanction prohibited the provision of any credit rating services, as well as access to any subscription service and related to these credit rating activities to any Russian person or entity. So this is a little different. This is not list-based. This is broader and applies to any Russian person or entity. The new sanctions that came out yesterday also expand the list of persons connected to Russia's defense and industrial sector, on whom tighter export restrictions are imposed, and particularly related to dual-use goods. So again, this is list-based and there are new entries on the list. The new sanctions also prohibit new investments in the Russian energy sector. For example, when you are planning on acquiring a company in the Russian energy sector, it won't be allowed anymore. You can no longer create a new joint venture. This is also not a list-based country, so it doesn't list particular countries that you can companies that you can no longer get into a joint venture with. But this is actually very broad. What else did we see? We saw a comprehensive export restriction on equipment, technology, and services for the energy industry. And another one that really is important is an iron and steel import ban. This is very broad. It says that it is prohibited directly or indirectly to import iron and steel products if they originate in Russia or have been exported from Russia. And there is a list of these products in Annex, I think it was 17 or 17, I think, of this Council Regulation 2022-428 that details these exact products. So if this product comes from Russia and then, for instance, goes to China and then comes to the EU, that is also prohibited. In addition to importing, you can also not buy or purchase these steel and iron products, nor transport them to any other country. So let's say if you're a European maritime shipping company, you can no longer transport Russian steel or iron to let's say Singapore, right? Not even the EU. Important to know, if you already had a signed contract, there is a wind down provision for this clause that tells you can still do these contracts that were already in place until June 17. So what else did they impose? There was also a prohibition of export or sale of luxury goods to anyone in Russia or for use in Russia. So this is not an export ban just on the oligarchs, for example, is to anyone in Russia. So these luxury goods are defined. There is a list of goods with certain nomenclature codes in Appendix 18 of this regulation. And it basically applies to all of these goods when they're worth more than 300 euros. So you can think of, I looked at this list, truffles, champagnes, sake, one of my favorites, cigars, perfumes, handbags, clothing, coats, children's baby clothes, children's clothes, gloves, carpets, diamonds, of course, but also expensive cars, over 50,000 euros. So I'm actually wondering how, stores like nice retail stores in Paris or Brussels are going to enforce this when you have a Russian, customer who wants to buy a nice handbag. We'll have to see. What else happened? So new oligarchs were designated. They imposed sanctions on key new oligarchs, including Abramovich, the owner of Chelsea Football Club. He was already designated by the UK, but also some other new oligarchs have been added to the list, including the main shareholder of Alpha Group, and some other oligarchs. Listed as well was Marina Sechina. She's the former wife of Igor Sechin, the CEO of Rosneft. So just to name a few. Their assets will be frozen in the European Union. And so those were important developments. I mentioned this yesterday already, that Deripaska is missing from the list. It looks like it has, definitely one or more countries have voted against him being placed on the list. So he is not there. And then there were some sanctions also on companies in the aviation, military, dual-use, shipbuilding, and machine building sectors. So a big package of sanctions that will keep compliance officers in the European Union busy for the next couple of days. And so I wish you all good luck in the implementation. There was no, what we saw earlier, that there were deposit restrictions over 100,000 for Russian or Belarus customers. We didn't see any of that in this new package. But of course, they're still in place, right, in the previous package. What else? So let's cross the North Sea and we go to the UK now. What has happened there? We saw that the UK government published that the new economic crime bill or act received royal assent on March 15. And this new legislation will mean that the government can do two things. First of all, it can move more quickly to impose sanctions against oligarchs that are already designated by, for instance, the United States or the EU, as well as it can intensify UK sanctions enforcement. Things that this act did was also, I thought it was interesting that it creates a new register of overseas entities. These requires the owners behind foreign companies which own UK property to reveal their identity, right? You can buy a property, a nice house, a nice flat in London in the name of a company, not in the name of yourself. And what happens is that sometimes sanctioned people hide behind the corporate veil, so to speak, hide behind these companies. So this new register where you actually have to tell who the owner is of these companies will avoid that. It has a hefty prison term. If you don't comply, you can go to prison up to 5 years. So this will be important for law enforcement agencies who are investigating suspicious wealth. What else? This new law in the UK also makes updates to the so-called unexplained wealth orders. So these are orders used in the UK to figure out, how persons actually got their wealth, right? When they, for instance, own a lot of, big houses, or they want to know, the government wants to know, okay, how did you get this money? And they can send you these orders. An example was this a couple of years ago when, against the wife of a former chairman of a bank in Azerbaijan. The chairman, he was in prison. He was, I think, sentenced in prison for 15 years for embezzlement and misappropriation of billions of dollars in public funds of Azerbaijan. His wife was not in prison. She had moved to the UK and she was spending significant amounts of money, and that the UK authorities said was not in line with the husband's salary as a chairman of this bank. And I guess she didn't have her own job. So they sent her this unexplained wealth order because she had, she had bought 16 million pounds in London Harrods, a large department store. She had bought a very nice house. She also bought a country club for like 10 million pounds and a jet for another 40 million. So the government wanted to know where this wealth came from. So they can ask you with these unexplained wealth orders to provide a clear account of your source of money. So anyway, so this law makes these orders more effective, and that will certainly help in efforts against the Russian oligarchs who are trying to spend or hide their ill-gotten gains in the UK. All right, so that was it for the updates. Just a couple of comments. I think all these sanctions, the importance of these sanctions, you can really compare it to what happened at 9/11 when the US passed the USA Patriot Act. I think the enforcement will be very strict. You won't get a lot of leeway, I think, in terms of compliance with this, because it is such a crucial and vital effort to crack down on Russia with after its invasion in the Ukraine. So I think in a similar way to what we saw back then, with the regulators really enforcing these sanctions, or in this case, with 9/11, the AML laws, I think we're going to see similar strict enforcement with these sanctions against Russia. And it's not easy to keep track, right? Lots of things going on. There's also differences, between the different jurisdictions, and that certainly makes it hard. Like, which bank is being sanctioned by which regime. Like some Russian banks, like Sberbank, can no longer clear US dollars, right? That was a sanction that was imposed by the US. UK has imposed similar clearing sanctions on this bank, but the European Union hasn't done that for euro clearing. Same thing with the oligarchs. There's different sanctions per regime. And finally, I think one of the challenges is dealing with know your customer information. So you have all these oligarchs being added to the list. Yeah, you can run their names in your database, right? But you also have to check if there are companies that they own are in your database. Because just because of the fact that they own these companies, majority ownership, that means that these companies, even though they're not listed by name on the list, you can also not do business with them. It's prohibited. So can you get in trouble for doing business with a non-listed company just because they are owned by a designated person? Yes. Are there examples of fines that have been imposed on, let's say, banks for dealing with a non-listed person that was owned by a listed person? Yes. There was a case a couple of years ago against Barclays Bank in Zimbabwe, Africa. They got a $2 million fine from OFAC for violating sanctions. And in this case, the bank account that was the issue here was not in the name of an individual or entity on the list, but it was from a company that was owned over 50% by a sanctioned person. So this underscores the importance of adequate know your customer controls, not only for US banks, but also non-US banks working abroad. And sometimes, screening can be a challenge, but you have to also look at the ownership and consult your KYC files to see what information you have on the ownership of the companies that have your accounts. All right, so this was it for today. We'll see what happens later today. If there's any new sanctions coming out, we'll keep track of it for you. And let's see if there's any questions right now in the comment box. And I apologize because sometimes there's a little bit of a delay between me seeing the questions and you posting them. Okay, I see a question coming in. There's Wim says, there's a problem of ownership is waived by the oligarch by giving the majority of their shares to their spouses or family. Yeah, unless they also list the spouses or the family, right? We've seen that in several instances where not only the oligarch himself is listed, but also his or her adult children and their spouses. So they're trying to be one step ahead by doing that. But yeah, it's definitely an issue, and they know exactly, of course, who's on the list and who's not on the list. Thank you for your question. All right, I think we have no more questions. Hold on, I think I just see another question from Maria. Can you please shed some light on the luxury goods sanctions? Yeah, so the luxury goods sanctions are, it's actually a long list of sanctions that has been included on in the EU sanctions that came out yesterday. And there's a specific list of goods that are covered by this definition, luxury goods. All right, so you have to take a look at Appendix 18 of this particular regulation, and the export ban is not just to, let's say, oligarchs or people listed. This export ban is very broad and covers anybody in Russia. Okay, also, or for use in Russia. So if somebody else buys it and then brings it to Russia, that is also not prohibited. Sorry, that is also not allowed. So prohibited. So I hope that helped answer your question. Thank you so much, Maria, for your question. And if there's no further questions, we'll wrap it up for today, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for posting the link there. Thank you.